There is one trait that the most successful people that I've met and the people that make the most consistent progress have way more than the average person. And that trait is the ability to go from it's so over to we're so back extremely quickly. Put less vaguely, they possess the ability to not allow themselves to self-sabotage for a long time and then plummet into this negative spiral. Every single person that you look up to or that you think has their life figured out and is so perfect in their everyday routine has terrible, shitty days sometimes. They have days where they're scrolling on this thing for an hour or two longer than they would like to. They have days where they're sitting in bed half the day having negative thoughts about themselves. But the amount of time that they stay there is so much less than the average person that they get up and get after it within a day or two. They'll never self-sabotage to the point where they're going to completely regress and lose all the progress that they've made. And if you are someone who finds that as soon as you do something that you wish you didn't, you start to do all these other things that pile up that you really don't want to do, and then it affects your self-image, and you think to yourself, oh shit, everything that I've worked for is gone now, and then that leads you to even more negative spiral. Well, then this should help you. The first thing you need to understand is that what is going on here is what I've kind of talked about in other videos, which is a amygdala hijacking. When you're in that sort of slump, your brain activates the amygdala, which is your fight or flight response, and it shuts down your prefrontal cortex. This is the logical thinking center of your brain. So you literally can't think straight. And during these periods, our brain has much more of a bias towards negativity. We're much more likely to focus on all the things that have gone wrong recently than the things that have gone right. And this makes small failures seem massive and permanent. So recognize that what's going on here when you're in a slump, it is not that things are actually going haywire and your life is ruined forever, but rather that your brain is reacting predictably to stress and what it perceives as a threat. So gaining awareness around that is really important. Understanding that you're having this spiral, you're getting closer to these negative thoughts on a daily basis because your brain is wired to do that. And you have the power to shift that awareness to something that actually gets you to take action. And it usually is just one small action to get your brain out of fight or flight mode, out of being super emotional about this terrible self-sabotaging thinking, and to doing something that gets you back on track. And to help reset your brain, this is something I do on days where I'm really not feeling good, and I know that if I just try to push through this, it might not actually be the best thing right now. What my brain really needs is some sort of reminder that, hey, this is not how things have to be. This is not how they will always be. And it's time to get up and go do stuff. And that is actually to take a nap. So today I woke up and I was feeling terrible, like absolutely terrible. But instead of like trying to push through that and doing shitty work, you need a whole brain factory reset. And that's what a nap is. When you take a nap or you get a little bit of sleep in, when you wake up, it feels like you're a bit of a different person. Especially when you wake up from deep sleep, I find that I forgot about what I was worrying about because my brain is no longer perceiving my environment as full of a bunch of threats and then getting me to focus on the negative things that are happening in my life. Instead, I just return to the Cole that is in the driver's seat, the command center. So if you're really stressed right now, if you're really anxious, if your thoughts are spinning, then it is really important for you to hit this factory reset button. One of the best ways I've found to do that is a nap. And that might sound counterintuitive because if you're in a slump, you might have just been sitting around all day. But it is different from just mindlessly scrolling. And I suggest that first. After that, you understand that your brain is just trying to keep you safe by perceiving things that normally don't seem like threats as threats. It's all a part of your belief system, and your belief system is going to be hijacked a little bit. You need something to break the loop. Any small thing. I love to ask myself this question. What is the next smallest step I can take to move towards the person I'm trying to become, or move towards the life I'm trying to have? And when you focus on just that next smallest step, the looming, extremely large tasks to get to the person you want to be or the life you want to be, which might be something huge like writing an entire project or finishing this huge job at work, whatever it is, it will seem very small when you break it down into its most digestible, tiny unit. And then on top of that, when you pair it with something that actually breaks the loop out of your completely normal routine, I'm not actually telling you to go back to your work. I want you to completely change your environment for a day. That means going to a coffee shop, maybe calling up a friend, getting into some sort of environment that your brain doesn't recognize. And what this does is it interrupts your brain's default mode network. This is its self-referencing loop that it is caught in right now. If you stay in the same environment and try to push through that little discomfort that you currently feel and all the negativity you currently feel, it's going to be very hard because your brain recognizes everything in your surroundings as the things that are threats, that are keeping you where you are. So something as simple as just changing an environment for a day, it signals to the brain we are no longer somewhere where we can just sit and sulk and ruminate on negative thoughts. We actually need to start thinking about where we are and what we need to do. Because when we're stuck in the habits of doing the same thing every single day in the same environment, you're not even thinking about what you're doing. But changing environments, breaking that loop with even the smallest thing, it requires your brain to break out of its self-referencing pattern and use the control center, use the logical brain center, the prefrontal cortex, to actually do something productive. Next thing you should do, and something I've noticed with all these successful people, and something I try to do as much as possible, is they're extremely good at self-compassion, but not in the form of like just positive affirmations. They're very good at taking care of themselves as if they were a really great parent to themselves. So if you're sitting here sulking, crying over something that happened, or you just feel like a piece of shit, you kind of need to separate yourself from yourself for a temporary period of time and ask yourself, if I was this person's parent and I wanted to be a great parent, what would I tell them? Well, you'd probably tell them, well, damn, man, I don't blame you for being here. I don't blame you for falling into this. It happens to us sometimes as humans. But, let's focus on what can I control right now? I can move my body. I can do something to break the consistent patterns I've been following while I'm in this it's so over phase. And so let's go and do something about it. You are capable of that, absolutely. And that's being compassionate to yourself and parenting yourself the way you wish you could have been parented as a child, basically. That's what I like to do, and that's the way I like to think about it. Self-criticism here is really not going to work because you're already stuck in a loop of negative thoughts. So you think feeding yourself more negativity in the form of self-criticism, like, you fucking idiot, get the fuck up, stop being a little bitch. Sometimes I can see that working, but most of the time, the approach that I just explained before is actually going to break the loop of negative thoughts. Feeding yourself more negativity is only going to lead to more negativity. So that's why self-compassion works better than self-criticism here. The next thing is what is called self-perception theory. You don't think yourself into acting differently. You act yourself into thinking differently. Your identity will catch up based on the behaviors you do. But right now, it might be hard to convince yourself that you're the person who is so back. Even if you do one small thing, or you start thinking to yourself, I'm going to be this powerful person. It doesn't matter unless your actions back up what you're being compassionate to yourself about. You have to do the actions of someone who is so back before your identity even catches up. So that's kind of like what I said earlier. Now that you've reset your mentality, maybe through a nap, maybe through a walk, you have changed your environment for a day. Now is the time to ask yourself, what is that small step that I can do that pushes me towards the person I want to identify as now? Asking yourself that question and doing the smallest fucking thing. That could be writing a sentence. That could be just getting up. That could be just doing 1 to 10 push-ups, like the smallest thing. And you're going to start convincing your brain that you are the person who does those things consistently. Your mood follows your movement. It's not usually the other way around. Your actions, how you move your body, will then result in you having more positive thoughts. And this creates a positive feedback loop where the more you move and do the right things, the more positive your thoughts start to become. The more positive your thoughts start to become, the easier it is to move and do the right things. And the exact opposite is what has been happening to you. But to break that negative loop, it starts with the first smallest thing. And those negative thoughts, they're still going to have a lot of hold over you. And they're still always going to exist to some extent, because bad shit is going to happen to you no matter what level you're at in life. But the only thing that is separating you from all those people who see more consistent success and progress, and they have no stop button. They seem to have so much consistency with their work. Apart from the fact that there's a bit of luck involved with being successful, they just simply do not allow themselves to get in a negative spiral because they understand all the things I've just explained to you. And then they start moving their body as soon as they possibly can. And they activate their prefrontal cortex. They think about this situation rationally. They ask themselves, what can I control in this situation? And they do the smallest things to push themselves to start believing that that identity they want to become, the one that can conquer the things that they want to, is possible to get to and will eventually be ingrained into you, so long as enough of your actions are aligned with the identity that you're trying to become. The more you do this, the easier it's going to get. I'm going to try to explain this process and the ups and downs that inevitably come with life, especially when you're a bit younger, in your early 20s, in my novel that I'm writing. I'm in the middle of writing a novel about a 21-year-old who goes through this very tragic loss and develops the ability to see into a parallel reality because of it. It's going to blend existential philosophy, psychology, self-improvement type of stuff like this. If you like that and you like fiction, I think you'll like the book. To get updates on the book's writing as I am writing it, you can subscribe to my newsletter. That's linked in the description. And if you want to join a group of people who will hold you accountable to actually taking action on those things that align with the identity you're trying to become, then join my Self-Mastery School, which is linked in the description as well. We meet in a video call once a week in there. So really helps you stay on track and not self-sabotage and go into a terrible spiral. And that is it. Goodbye.